Welcome to Law Society Younger Members Committee Career Information Session number 8, when Jennifer O'Sullivan speaks to Rowan Rossiter about how to impress on LinkedIn and with your CV.
I am delighted to welcome Rowan Rossiter from Capital Markets Recruitment. I would say he's actually a friend of mine, and he's helped me out so much in my own career. So the fact that we get to talk this evening on this is a very important subject, which is how you integrate your CV with LinkedIn, which is one of the most, well, I would actually argue it is the most important social media platform for professionals. It's the fastest growing social media platform in the world. So it's so relevant, it's so current, and we have an expert to give us some of the tips. So Rowan, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more, and you can take us through whatever you want to speak to us this evening.
Brilliant.
And
Thank
at
you.
the end, we're going to, if you want to put in some chat in the chat function, questions for Rowan, I'll bring them up at the end after he's finished speaking.
Well, thank you very much, Jen. It's much appreciated. There's a check in the post for that introduction, so thank you. I lead the legal division of Capital Markets Recruitment here in Dublin, and we're part of the Vertical Markets Group, which are 6 specialist recruitment agencies, all in, I guess, the one roof. And that's IT search, life science recruitment, HR search, DB search, and ANF recruitment, and ourselves, Capital Markets. So I've over 6 years legal recruitment experience now. So, and I cover the full spectrum from newly qualified right up to partner level, or junior legal counsel up to head of legal and general counsel roles as well. So over the years, I guess I've looked at probably thousands of CVs at this stage. So I think I've seen it all, really, the really good ones, and I'm sorry, the really bad ones as well. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'm afraid. So, and I imagine with you, Jen, as well, that you're probably looking at CVs as well. So I'd be interested to hear kind of your thoughts on this complete subject. I thought it would be important for us to talk about kind of LinkedIn as well, and how they both are connected as well. You know, most employers now will look at your LinkedIn profile. You know, maybe they'll read your CV first and then be like, oh, I'll Google this candidate. So they will check out your LinkedIn if you have one. That said, they'll also probably look at your other social media platforms. So keep them private would be a little tip. It's my first tip of the day. But LinkedIn it's a real powerful tool, and it's not just a jobs board. You know, it's a really powerful networking tool as well. So we might talk about LinkedIn maybe on the second part of this. But so CVs, like, actually, before I go any further, one thing I would like to say, if that's okay, Jen, is like CVs are very subjective. What I might think is a really, really good CV, you might think isn't. You know, you might be looking for something completely different. So there probably isn't an exact formula here because it's so subjective. Okay, so I know people put lots of time and effort into their CVs, and you know, it takes a lot of time and energy, especially doing it from scratch. You know, so so one thing I would say, maybe best practice tells us that if we could, regardless of profession, to have a master CV, let's say, which is just ultimately your, it's like keeping a journal or keeping a diary or track record of things that you've been involved in, you know. So if you can refer to that, let's call it a master CV, every couple of weeks, keep it updated. That's going to help you going forward, just to tailor your CV to that particular job that you're applying to. And yeah, the last note on that would be for each role you're applying to, it's really important that you do tailor your CV. Try not to use the one CV for different types of roles. Most roles are different. Okay. So yeah, so I just to say that, I'm just going to pull up a slide here. Hopefully this works. Share screen. Technology. Okay, is that working, Jen? No, sorry.
No.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so can you see that slide?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. Cool. Okay, so what is a CV? And I did some very good quick Googling before this as well, but it's quite simple. We all know what it is, but it's a document highlighting your professional and academic history, right? An opportunity to showcase your suitability to the role, showcase who you are, what you've accomplished, and provide some depth ultimately. Okay, so it's important. It's the first impression that the employer will get of you. So you need to stand out. It needs to be easy to read, of course. Grabs the attention of the reader. Keep it simple. I'm probably going to keep repeating that, I think, throughout this, but keep it simple. Keep the format simple. No grammar errors or spelling errors. It's an absolute no-no. People will be turned off immediately, I think. Be to the point, as concise as possible, and again, keep it relevant to the role that you're applying for. Okay, so and how you do that, I guess, is to use, if you can, the job description to help you with the application or with writing your CV. Mirror the language that they're using, in the job spec to help you there. Okay, so one question that I get asked a lot is kind of the length. How long should it be? Again, this is subjective, so it's not about how many pages. It's ultimately about the quality, not quantity. But I think 2 to 3 pages is enough, and 1 page is okay for a newly qualified solicitor, for example. There's enough there. Okay, this perhaps might seem obvious, but use Word or a PDF format. We're seeing now lots of companies using HR type software where they use keyword searches. So try not to use images or text boxes or anything like that, just in case they're not being picked up. Make sure any dates that you use are accurate. That will be questioned in the interview. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. There's just no excuses for grammar or spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
There's spell check, Grammarly, and get people to check it for you. And use your recruiter to do that as well. So I put myself there going, it's up to me. I can't let candidates CVs leave my desk if there's spelling or grammar mistakes as well. I should be picking that up. So okay, then with regards then like the format, repeating myself again, I'm sorry, but keep it simple. So name and your contact information, so phone number, address, email, your LinkedIn profile, maybe make it easy for the reader. So the next piece, I think, is personally what I think is one of the most important pieces on your CV, and you could probably call it professional summary or professional statement, something like that. But again, this is about first impressions. So this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what I would like to achieve. Okay, so maybe 4, 5, 6 bullet points there before you get into detail on your work experience, about you and about what you've done and what you're hoping to achieve and your suitability again to the role. Okay, then education is next. Again, I know this for most people watching here is going to sound really obvious, but education section, dates, the university, the award, and your result. Okay, I would keep it nice and simple like that. You don't need to get into mentioning modules that you did. You know, just keep it nice and simple. These are the type of things maybe that you would talk about in the interview. You could get into more detail about modules you studied and subjects that were, enjoyable or not so enjoyable, etc. So a question that comes up a lot actually is about, should I mention my leaving cert? And by all means you should, absolutely, especially those who are lucky enough to get 500 points plus. But so yeah, by all means put it in, but again, just you don't have to go through all the subjects, you know, just your school and the year and your points perhaps. Okay, again, the next piece will be your professional experience. Date, again, repeating myself, date, the name of the company, and your job title. Couple of ways of doing this. I think one could be just a little quick summary on either the firm or the company you're working for, and your role or the team size, for example. But more importantly, a couple of bullet points going through what you do ultimately, you know, mentioning your achievements. You know, it doesn't have to just be about kind of the work itself. If there's anything outside of work that you're doing that's important there for the company, whether that's business development or CSR type things as well. Okay. Yeah, so again, but keep it simple. It doesn't need to be you don't need to complicate it. And again, use the job description that you will have to help you put that piece together. Okay, then what's next? So the next part of your CV can be really however you want to do this. It could be other skills, your achievements or awards, or all of that together, you know. So and this section is about being unique and kind of standing out slightly. So you know, if you play sports, musical instruments, or you know, your language skills, if you're a qualified yoga teacher, if anything, you know, train underage football, whatever it may be, something that gets your personality out, that's perhaps non-work related, actually, I think is really nice. Or use that in the next section, which is the last section here, is in maybe hobbies. So some people would ask, will I mention hobbies? And I think it's, by all means you should, because it's about getting your personality out there, isn't it? So so very simple, like just to kind of sum all that up, it's been simple about it, making it really easy for the reader. The personal statement piece at the beginning, or the professional statement, to me, that's as important. Perhaps you have heard before that unfortunately hiring managers don't spend that long reading your CV. There's plenty of studies being done out there, and in some cases you're talking a couple of seconds. So if you can, yeah, and it's they would never admit that, but it's unfortunate. I think that's why the personal statement piece is important, I think. if you can kind of make it crystal clear, I am qualified for this job, then that will kind of bring them in straight away. Okay, so yeah, look, for me, that's probably it on the CV side of things, and then maybe if it's okay, Jen, we kind of talk about LinkedIn. And do you have anything to kind of? I know that you look at CVs. Is there anything there that you?
Yeah. What stood out to me definitely is the personal statement. Like, obviously, from your experience as a recruiter, that's not something we'd be privy to. So I would have been very much against the personal statement, and I would have been of the rhetoric, show, don't tell, as in let your experience do the talking. But as you said, because people are going through these CVs so quickly, maybe it is good to have a tagline to bring in the reader quickly. It's more of a tactical thing, I think. Exactly. So that's definitely new on me. The keyword search is new on me. I wasn't aware that people, it's logical now, but I just wasn't aware of it. And I think definitely the master CV thing is key. Like I know lots of young solicitors would be in the same position as me, in that you work all day and whatever, you have timesheets, but you're like, okay, what did I actually do today? And that can turn into days, months, and years. And then when you go to a recruiter like yourself, and you've said it to me when I was putting out my CV, could you give me some more color around commercial contracts? Could you give me some more color around data protection? And it's true. You need to keep a log every day of what you're doing. I think that's the only way. And as you said, keep it as a master CV so that you can pull those bits from it and then tailor it to whatever application you're making.
For sure. Yeah, no, absolutely, for sure. It's best practice. Look, the reality is not everyone does that, but maybe today people will learn from us for sure. So yeah, so with regards then LinkedIn and the importance of LinkedIn, as I said at the top of this, I think most employers actually are jumping onto LinkedIn profiles to check them out. LinkedIn for us recruiters and headhunters is an absolute game changer. It really is. And it gives us the opportunity to reach out to, in some cases, volumes of candidates and message them directly. That's ultimately the tool here, and say, I'm working on this role. Would this be of interest? So to be able to do that in my profession is really, really helpful. So for sure, it's a really important tool. So, and it's not just a jobs board. I think there's more to it than that. But if for now, we might just kind of talk about it as a tool, though, to help with the recruitment process, if that's okay. So cool. I'm just going to share this screen again. Hopefully it'll work. Okay, we got that one already. Okay, so what is LinkedIn and how is it used? So LinkedIn is a social network that focuses on professional networking and career development. So you can use your LinkedIn to display your resume, search for jobs, and enhance your professional reputation by posting updates and interacting with other people. Okay, so again, Jen, you mentioned at the start there, you probably did more research on this than I, but that it's the biggest growing social network. Is that right?
Yeah, well, according to Gary Vaynerchuk, who's using it to sell his wine, but no, I've also read a book called Post-Corona that only came out in July. Right. And there was a whole chapter on social media where they spoke about how LinkedIn is the fastest growing social media platform. And it's actually like the gold standard for how one should behave online.
Wow, okay.
In a way, because it's private as to your personal life and it's public as to your professional life, which is utopian in a way.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting one, and apparently, the advertising and stuff, it's not really affected LinkedIn.
Yeah.
you know, which makes it far more accessible as a user. You're not being bombarded by advertising. So it's a safe place.
That's very interesting. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I don't know about you, but I'm certainly getting sick of the other networks. And you can do, you know, you can get bombarded by it all, but it's very specific, isn't it, what LinkedIn does and who its audience are. So yeah, for sure. So look, most people now would have a LinkedIn profile. It's not that you have to have one, but to have one has its benefits, I think, and that's if you are if you're a job seeker and looking for a change, it's going to be beneficial. Secondly, even if you're curious about the market, I think it's worth setting one up. But beside, I'm putting the recruitment side aside, I should say. I think it's a good networking tool, anyways. And I think law firms, in fact, are advising their solicitors to set up a profile, just so they're more visible to their clients as well, which is quite interesting. So for those who don't have an account, I'll just quite quickly go through that, if that's okay. So LinkedIn is free, so you can create a basic account, and you know, you just literally follow all the steps. It's fairly straightforward, thankfully. Important here, please use a professional photo. You know, don't use a selfie or a photo that you might use perhaps on a different platform. I think I've heard you say before, Jen, actually, about professional photo is worth the investment. In most cases, I think most employers actually will get a professional photographer in because they need your photo for their website, etc. But for those who don't, you think it's worth spending a few quid on getting a professional photo?
Yeah, and like there's a lot of freelance photographers around Dublin who will do it for you. There are some people who specialize in it. Mm-hmm. Like I think I've heard some of the people who I've been talking to have spent €60. In the grander scheme of things, I know a one-off €60 might seem expensive, but like my picture, that was taken in 2011. I put my hands up.
Oh, brilliant.
I mean, I'm no spring chicken, but I'm not going to change that for a while, actually, you know, like it's done now. Maybe
you haven't changed a bit, by the way. Let me jump in on that quickly.
I was more instant, but no, but honestly, like you can get it just done once and it'll do you for roughly 10 years.
Yeah, for sure.
It will.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure. So I think it's important, though, just for the photo to be as professional looking as possible. Okay. Okay. The next part then, when setting your profile up, or if you already have one and you want to go back and edit it, is, I guess, the headline piece. So keep this bits. My advice, by the way, is just to keep this simple. Maybe your job title and your employer. In fact, I checked yours earlier, Jen, and you do that. So well done, full marks. The next section, actually, but a good tip here perhaps is to, if you're working in private practice, is to mention your practice area. So if you're a commercial property solicitor, put that up as well. Okay, simply in one way, it's going to help recruiters find you, or potential employers find you easier. Okay. Next section then is the About You section. So again, perhaps you could use your professional statements section we use on the CV, you know, something similar here. But again, this is just to talk about your relevant experience and skills. You know, I'm a 2 PQE commercial lawyer focusing on XYZ, you know, whatever it may be. But another tip here is that only the first two lines, I think, are visible when you look at someone's profile. You would need to click on it to see the rest of the paragraph, if you like. So I guess what my tip here is to keep it kind of direct. Certainly the first one or two sentences on the about section. Okay. Then the next piece, again, thankfully LinkedIn do this for you in the right order, but you put in kind of your work experience. Personally, I don't think you need to get into too much detail here about what you're doing. LinkedIn it doesn't need to be your full CV, really. I think personally, I just think it's okay to put in the right dates, the company you're working for, and your job title. And what else, I guess, and the last piece, sorry, is education, which is self-explanatory, really. You can put that in. Just don't lie, I guess, at any section there. And that's pretty much, like, it's pretty straightforward in terms of it's an easy platform it's an easy way to it's easy to set up a profile, I should say, excuse me, and easy to kind of navigate around. So if you don't have an account, you can set one up quite easily, and you would figure it out quite easily as well, I'm sure. So yeah, so hopefully by using some of the work on your CV, you can use that then on LinkedIn as well, if that makes sense, the information that you've mentioned. Okay, so yeah, so last note I'll make is it's a couple of other things just to make your LinkedIn profile a bit more what's the word, kind of stand out a bit more. Ask people for recommendations, join groups. I'm sure the Law Society have a group for sure. Most employers have a LinkedIn page, so if you're anyway curious about a company, or you're doing your research prior to an interview, jump on their LinkedIn page as well. But the last and most important thing is to keep it professional. It's not like other social networks, so I would certainly keep it as professional as possible. Okay. So I think I hope that all has made sense.
Yeah. Again, like there's a few things again I wouldn't have considered, like the fact that you have to click on about. You only get the top of the about.
Yes.
And then you click on the rest. So I guess if you're putting a lot of information there, it's probably a bit of a waste, because you need to grab attention with the top line. Yeah. And as I said, your tagline with the practice area, that's something again I wouldn't have known from my time. And yeah, like I definitely think, like, I know some people are clever with the groups, because that can color your character. For example, I know if people have, if they're in sailing, or if they've completed an Ironman, they'll join the group on LinkedIn to show inadvertently that that's their hobby.
Okay, yeah.
So it's kind of a tactics thing, I guess.
For sure, yeah.
What do you think about oversharing? Like, I have, certainly with the people I've been exposed to, some of my connections, I would say definitely some of the younger ones probably overshare a bit, in that we'll say, like, I know, for example, if you get a diploma or something, it's important to highlight it on LinkedIn. But where do you think you draw the line with, like, how much you're putting up there?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, probably quite subjective. I'm not one to, I wouldn't be a fan of kind of oversharing absolutely everything just for the sake of it. So perhaps you should, before, you just need to think about it first, don't you? Is probably the best thing. It's all about balance. But if you with regards LinkedIn, because it's not like other social networks, the Facebooks and the Instagrams, where I think you've more of a license to share as much as you want there, really. With LinkedIn, the key here is about keeping everything as professional as possible, isn't it? So
yeah,